Welcome to Mickey, Marvel, and More, Disney news, commentary, and opinion. From theme parks to Thanos and from Skywalker to Skyliner, my family and I will discuss it all. So let's go!
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hello, Mark here, and welcome to another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy day to spend some of it here on our little dog and pony show. Have you ever wondered what happens if you wind up in Walt Disney World during a hurricane? Well, with all the recent severe weather in Florida due to hurricanes, we've been wondering the exact same thing. Laura and I are going to sit down in the family chat and talk all about what your options are before and during a hurricane in Florida regarding your Walt Disney World vacation. We've got some great info on that topic, so stick around for that. But before the family chat, how about some news from in and around the Disneyverse?
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
During a recent appearance at LA Comic-Con, actor Ewan McGregor had some news that had all the Star Wars universe excited. He hinted at the possibility that there might be a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He said that Disney and Lucasfilm are exploring potential ideas featuring the Jedi Master. Ewan McGregor played the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequel trilogy and has indicated that there are more stories that he would like to do, in particular, a story or two from the Clone Wars. He said in order to achieve that, of course, would involve the de-aging process. And of course, he would have to wear dots on his face to make him appear younger using CGI. He says he's willing to do it, and I think Disney fans and Star Wars fans alike would like to see that happen.
I can do this all day.
One of the new Marvel TV series, which will be making its debut on Disney Plus in 2025, is the series Daredevil Born Again. The series is expected to be as brutal as its Netflix predecessor, which ended after 3 seasons. However, in a recent interview, Marvel Studios executive Brad Winderbaum compared this new Daredevil series to Game of Thrones. He said, quote, "Imagine if New York City was as intricate and problematic and scary as the world of Game of Thrones. All these forces vying for control, and it can be really hopeful at times and really violent at times and dark, but also there's light at the end of the tunnel if you could just fight for it. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure that I'm quite ready for a Marvel series that reminds me of Game of Thrones. Not exactly a ringing endorsement, Brad."
Don't you get it? You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit. Snap out of it, Buzz!
An attraction at Disney Hollywood Studio closed this week, and thousands of fans went, meh. The closure of Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy paves the way for a new villains-themed live entertainment experience, which is set to open in the summer of 2025. The new show features Disney villains like Cruella de Vil, Captain Hook, and Maleficent. It will be staged in the Magic Mirror's mysterious realm, bringing guests closer to these notorious characters through immersive live production numbers. Our family actually saw Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy during a recent visit because we knew it was probably going to be on the chopping block sooner or later. The attraction just did not generate that much foot traffic. While the 360 experience was pretty neat in the theater, and it certainly was state-of-the-art, the animatronic of Lightning McQueen himself was also pretty cool. The show itself had audience members basically staring at Lightning McQueen's butt for the entire time, which didn't exactly make the best presentation. Hopefully the new villains-themed attraction won't feature as many butts.
Don't touch the butt. Nemo!
He touched the butt.
Have you ever wondered what people do if they have a vacation planned in Walt Disney World and they see that a hurricane is coming a few days before they leave? What about people who are already there as a hurricane forms and heads their direction? What do they do? What are their options? And what does Disney do to handle the situation? Well, to cover all of these questions, we're going to bring in my lovely wife, Laura, and she's going to help break it all down and explain it to you guys.
Happy to be here.
Before we go any further, I do want to say this. Hurricanes are dangerous, they are unpredictable, they are deadly, and they cause millions of dollars worth of damage every time one comes ashore. They are to be avoided at all costs, full stop. But with all of that being said, what are your options when it comes to a Walt Disney World vacation that you have planned and saved for months for if you see that Walt Disney World is in the potential crosshairs of one of these devastating storms? What does Disney themselves do to ready the park for a potential hurricane strike, period? So what is the current situation?
Well, so just to put this in perspective, Disney has taken the unusual step of actually closing the parks for a day and a half. So on Wednesday, October 9th, the park closed early at 2 p.m., and Disney announced that it would also be closed the following day on Thursday due to the hurricane.
Yeah, and I did some reading on that, and historically, since the place in Disney World has been opened since 1971, they have only closed for hurricanes a total of 7 times, and that's usually for just one day at most. So it's not happened very often.
That's right. It's obviously a huge undertaking for cast members to get ready for the storm. It's obviously a huge interruption for people that are traveling to Disney World, but it is pretty unusual. The county where Disney World is located actually imposed an 8 p.m. curfew on Wednesday night that was going to stay in place until 10 a.m. Thursday morning. So, even if Disney had wanted to make some services available, curfew was in place, and even guests staying at Disney hotels were not allowed to leave a hotel room or be outside a resort after 8 p.m. Wednesday night until 10 a.m. Thursday.
Yeah, they just want to keep people off the streets so the emergency crews can do their jobs.
And keep people safe.
Right.
Moving on to what people do who are faced with a vacation, but also a potential hurricane in Disney World.
Right. Like even before they go, they see that this is happening and they see, okay, we're supposed to be in Disney World on Friday, and say on Monday morning, they see that, okay, Hurricane X is going to hit Disney World on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and it's going to be a major storm. What are their options?
Right. So Disney's standard hurricane policy is if the National Hurricane Prediction Center has predicted a hurricane within 7 days of when someone is scheduled to be in the Disney parks, Disney will allow them to cancel their vacation, full refund, no cancellation fees, no questions asked. In this particular case, in the case of Hurricane Milton, I believe that the National Hurricane Prediction Center declared that the hurricane was going to hit Disney World on Wednesday night. So, people definitely had lots of warning ahead of time that it was about to hit. And again, Disney agreed to cancel any hotel reservations, any dining reservations, fully refunded from the period of last Saturday through, I think, next Saturday.
Right, because a lot of the sit-down places require a credit card number to hold the reservation. If you don't show up, they charge you the full price of the meal.
Right. Any special experiences, ticket packages, tours, anything extra that you would have paid for through Disney, Disney has agreed to fully refund, no cancellation fees, no penalties.
I mean, it's disappointing when you have to cancel something you've been planning for, months or maybe some people years, but I think safety is way more important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Disney tries to be as accommodating as possible because, to be quite honest, they don't really want a whole lot of people in the resorts, in the parks, that they are going to have to be responsible for during this very dangerous time.
Certainly.
And I think that kind of brings us to the next category, which is people that unfortunately maybe were already in the parks and are now stuck.
Right. I mean, if they didn't drive, they can't drive out. Most people that drove, at least I hope most people that drove, as soon as they found out what was going on, hit the roads and got out of there. Now, I know that the roads were clogged, but it's better to be stuck in northern Florida with trying to leave as opposed to waiting for the hurricane to come and smack you.
Right. Well, and depending on the situation, I mean, we say things like, yeah, we know the roads are clogged, but I can tell you anecdotally, a friend of mine that lives in Florida said it's normally a 5-hour drive between her
Right.
place and her son's place where they were going to go and evacuate. And that 5-hour drive was a 15-hour drive on, I believe it was Sunday or Monday.
Yeah,
So
that
it's
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, several days in advance of when the hurricane actually hits, and the roads are all already that clogged. So, maybe easier said than done, particularly if your driving circumstances are not
No, that's true.
ideal. But airlines have been canceling in advance of the hurricane. So it's certainly the situation that a lot of people are stuck in Disney World without really any other option but to ride it out.
Yeah, and the airlines, they were canceling the incoming flights, and they were filling as many outbound flights as they could, as much as safety would permit. But they also aren't doing cancellation fees or any of that sort of stuff. But sometimes the planes get full, you didn't drive, you're stuck there. So you're stuck in Walt Disney World, a hurricane is coming your way. What happens next?
Right. So, what is the experience of the people that are kind of stuck there from the time that the park closed at 2 p.m. on Wednesday until the park presumably reopens on Friday morning?
Right.
That's a lot of people that have to be fed, that have to be sheltered, that have to be taken care of, and, probably have to be entertained somewhat, particularly if you're talking about children.
Right.
So, in advance, the Disney cast members were busy, making the physical space ready. So, in the parks themselves, they were doing things like tying down marquee signs to make sure they didn't blow away, making sure that umbrellas for outdoor tables were tied down with zip ties, that outdoor tables and chairs were being zip tied together, that carts and kiosks and things like that were being secured.
Yeah, like the all those little booths at Epcot that are, they look temporary, but they're actually permanent, but they still have the potential to blow away. So I don't know if most people know this. On the ground around those, hidden in the concrete, are strap down points. And so they have 4-corner strap downs on all of those carts. And then they're, of course, covered and then strapped down with hopes that, okay, the wind isn't going to carry this cart away.
Outdoor decorations were removed. So the large holiday wreaths that are up around the park have
For Halloween.
Yep, have been taken down. Banners have been removed. Any sort of a glass street lamp has been covered. Speakers have been covered, outdoor speakers covered in plastic. So Disney is truly battening down the hatches.
Right. That way, they cover the lamps so that if it gets hit by debris, glass won't be everywhere.
And speaking of other preparations that Disney has made in anticipation of the hurricane, they did close 3 of their resort hotels, the campgrounds, the Copper Creek cabins, and
The tree houses.
The tree houses, right. And what all of those have in common is large outdoor spaces and fairly remote.
Well, and the tree houses are among the trees,
Right.
where there could be potential damage.
Right. So Disney has actually shut down those resorts, and I would imagine any guests that were either already there or who were planning to arrive there have been moved to other hotels.
Right. So they also shut down, I believe, the new cabins at the Poly. They're out there on the water.
Yeah.
Just because the wind blowing the water, it might be pretty dangerous out there too.
Disney also restricted new hotel reservations for people in an effort to keep hotel rooms available for their staff that was going to have to be working around the clock.
And they can't go home.
That's right. And that's something that, I think will come into play a little bit later in what we're talking about. But somebody has to feed all of these people. Somebody
Right.
has to take care of all of these people. Somebody has to entertain them. And that's, those are Disney cast members, and they can't go home. They have to ride out the storm like everybody else, and they have to be given a place to stay.
Yeah. So how does the feeding of everybody happen? Because I did read that they were closing down food courts, and I assume that's to minimize the staff.
That's exactly right. So, Disney has to have some sort of way to provide for people. It's my understanding that the standard box dinner that they will be providing to people, or that they provided to people on Wednesday night and probably Thursday at lunch and at dinner, is a pretty standard box dinner that consists of a sandwich, a fruit cup, some chips,
And some water.
and some water. My understanding is it's pretty expensive, and the lines are long to purchase those when available. So, I read recommendations from people who are stuck down there right now and have been through this before, advising people early in the week, look, if you're going to ride out the storm at Disney, go on Monday or Tuesday and go to a grocery store, stock up, so that you can have food in your hotel room, so that you don't have to try to, compete with other people for these overpriced box lunches. And honestly, just saving themselves and the Disney cast members a little bit more headache.
Right. Well, I also saw that at some of the DVC resorts, where you've got, usually larger parties, this time they were providing these bags that were like prepped, ready to go meals. And it was like for the kids, it was like a jar of peanut butter, a jar of jelly, a loaf of bread, a big bag of potato chips, and a bag of, fruit. And then they were providing gallons of water, and they would just take that whole meal and that would feed them for a day, a couple of meals. I thought that was kind of a creative way of doing it. And and if people are stuck there and they can't go to the grocery store to buy something because they don't have a car, at least in advance, they could have gone to the food court and picked up some cereal, some milk, things like that, sandwich making materials. If you're at a DVC resort, a microwave pizza, all the kind of things that you can use to feed your family while you're stuck there and not have to go stand in this quote unquote bread line and wait for this $10 boxed meal.
Right. So for people that are stuck in a Disney hotel because they were already there and couldn't get home, that's one thing. But what about people who are choosing to go to a Disney resort hotel to ride out the storm? Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I saw something about this just today, actually. I didn't know that was a thing that apparently some people who can afford it and live in Florida will do to protect themselves from a storm, is that they will book a hotel room for a couple of nights at a Disney resort, and they will move their entire family there to ride the storm out. Mainly because Disney's got generators. They keep the water running. They keep the lights on. There's food, and as stupid as it sounds, there's entertainment.
And so I'll stop you right there. That actually sounds on its face like a pretty good idea and a pretty good way to ride out a storm.
Sure.
But it also seems like it's maybe putting a strain on a system that doesn't need to be there. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the whole thing sounds pretty selfish. I mean, Orlando generally, they're in the middle of the state. They don't get hit as hard as, say, a Tampa or a Miami when a hurricane comes through, but there's still a lot of flooding and, a lot of bad things happen. And I know that, if you can't get out and you can't batten down the hatches, I guess it seems like, I'll just go to Disney, because I also read that of the Disney resort hotels that they have built on the site are some of the most hurricane-proof buildings in all of the state of Florida. And I guess the people that live in Florida know that. I just think the whole thing sounds sort of selfish to me.
Right. You're certainly requiring more Disney cast members to spend time away from their families in order to serve, people who maybe don't really need to be there. They could have evacuated.
Right. Or they could have, there are many other options. They could have gone to, a public shelter, because there are plenty of those kind of places that, first aid from, Red Cross, and there are places to go if you are in danger. And I just don't think that using Disney World as a safety shoot is the best plan because you're going to require them to have more staff on site. And then these people who live in Florida can't be with their families and can't help batten down their hatches or, maybe, get away for a couple of days in the north part of the state. They may have friends up there that they can go to, but now they're going to have to work because these people decided they were going to ride the storm out in Disney World.
Right. So that's really interesting to know what people can do if they know that a hurricane's coming and they have a Disney vacation planned, what's going on at Disney while a hurricane is happening. And also the fact that some people apparently choose Disney as their evacuation vehicle of choice.
We here at Mickey, Marvel, and More frown upon that activity.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so one other hurricane-related question.
Oh gosh, I know what you're going to say.
So I heard a rumor that when a hurricane is approaching Disney, they can take the top spire off the castle so that it doesn't blow away. Is that true?
Just about every single time a major storm or hurricane heads towards Disney World, it will always pop up on the Facebooks or the Twitters or wherever you might get your social media from that says, when they constructed Cinderella Castle, all of the spires are designed to be removed and stored away in case of an emergency. I will just say it right here. That is not true. It is false.
Myth busted.
Myth busted right here on Mickey, Marvel, and More. If you've never heard that before, this is the definitive answer. The spires cannot be removed.
Okay, case closed.
Thank you. So with all that being said, I wish all of the people in Florida the best. I hope that this turns out to be less than they thought. I hope that nobody gets injured or hurt or nobody loses their homes, although I know that that's probably going to happen. But our thoughts definitely go out to them. And hopefully the next time we have a family chat, we can have one that is a little more uplifting. But I just thought people might be interested to know what Disney does in preparation and what they offer people, and that the fact that they can get their money refunded with no fees. So we'll see you next time.
Do not pull down on the safety bar, please. I will lower it for you.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. A big thank you goes out to my wife, Laura, for joining us in the family chat and delivering the Disneyverse news this episode. She always makes this show seem way better than it actually is. After listening to the show, be sure to check out the show notes with links to all of the stories we talked about in this episode, as well as links to all of our socials. And if you feel like you want to add to the conversation, click the link to our Gmail, Mickey, Marvel, and More, all one word, at gmail.com, and drop us a line. If we read your email on the show, you will become one of the lucky few who get to become an official friend of the show. That way, if you're at a party somewhere and someone starts bragging about how they hiked to the top of Mount Everest, you can tell them, well, that's great and all, but I'm an official friend of the show of Mickey, Marvel, and More. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, mountain boy. Okay, so I really wouldn't suggest doing that, but being an official friend of the show is pretty cool. Now we've come to the part of the close where I usually make some clever joke about listening to Mickey, Marvel, and More. But this episode, I thought I would change it up and play our first official Mickey, Marvel, and More outtake. This one's rather self-explanatory. Laura was doing the news story about the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy closing, and she decided to ad-lib on the script at the end. Please enjoy.
The show itself had audience members basically staring at Lightning McQueen's butt for the entire time, which didn't exactly make the best presentation. Hopefully the new villains attraction won't feature as many butts.
No, we can do an edit there. You should say that line.
Okay, I don't know if I can do it with a straight face.
I won't look at you. I thought that's where you were going, and I was hoping it was.
Okay.
Well, no buts about it. My name is Mark, and this has been Mickey, Marvel, and More. We'll see you next time.